Tanzania's leadership faced calls for smooth succession on Thursday after President John Magufuli, Africa's most vehement coronavirus skeptic, died from heart disease following an 18-day absence from public life that drew speculation about his health. An opposition leader urged the immediate swearing-in of Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan as successor, saying that would avoid a constitutional vacuum and prevent uncertainty. Magufuli's death, the first of a Tanzania leader while in office, opens the prospect that the country will gain its first female president. The constitution says 61-year-old Hassan should assume the presidency for the remainder of the 5-year term that Magufuli began serving last year after winning a second term. And joining me now to discuss this is African Affairs Analyst Oluwaseyi Adeyemo. Good to have you join us.
Thank you.
This is a rather sad development in Tanzania and in Africa. But let's get your thoughts on what you make of the circumstances surrounding the death of John Magufuli.
Okay, unlike most people, I believe that Magufuli was a very great man. So he was known as the bulldozer, and the reason why he was called the bulldozer was what he did to reduce spending of government. So he was the one who promised when he was coming into office that he was going to deal with corruption. And if, for me, faced that frontally. At the 54th anniversary, when they were meant to spend a lot of money celebrating the independence of the country, he was the one who said, no, we're going to suspend that. And we're going to go ahead and go to the street and clear the street because we're suffering cholera as a people. And I don't think that is a time to now start celebrating independence and spending so much money. So he diverted that money. And obviously he had a lot of enemies because he faced the lesbians. He was one who said, look, why are you stopping having more children and all of that? And the most, I would say, celebrated thing that he did against a lot of people was the fact that he was the one who played down the COVID-19 the most in Africa. Not that the rest of Africa didn't have a situation where the COVID-19 wasn't affecting us as it was affecting the Europeans. And so he was the one who went out. And for me, the lesson to learn here is, when you are...
you almost took the word out of my mouth, the word lesson, but I was going to use the word legacy, because there is now a debate over the kind of legacy he's leaving behind. You are absolutely correct about his anti-corruption stance, his infrastructural development with electricity, the railway. But when you also look at the fact that he did clamp down on opposition when it comes to dissent, he also did... his approach to the COVID-19 also drew large condemnation not within Africa and international community. That debate about his legacy, what do you think his legacy will be? His politics, his policies, or the coronavirus pandemic?
So for me, the lesson to learn here is that leadership is not something you do in a box. If you want to be a good leader, you must be one that is able to deal with all sorts of issues at the same time. You must be seen to be balanced. You must be seen to be dispassionate. And you cannot afford to either be a Christian or a Muslim. You cannot afford to be a Northerner or a Southerner. You must be one that is able to see the other people's side. Because the problem with that in leadership is the fact that, oh, I am a Yoruba man, oh, I'm an Hausa man, oh, I am... So that is something that we need to take care of, because for me, those were his major shortcomings. So he was a Christian and one who believed in the fact that, oh, as Africans, we need to be able to provide some of these indigenous solutions to defend this thing. That was his personal opinion, that was his personal belief. I think as a leader, what you do usually is you're able to balance what the norm is. You're able to deal with the rest of the world, because then you're not standing there as an individual. You're standing as a father of a nation, as a representative of your people, and that for me is something you need to do with a lot of balance. And I think he probably didn't do a very good job at that. And so legacy is, he did a good job for his people, but he probably wasn't a great manager of other things as regards the way he dealt with oppositions. He was shouting them down, he was clamming down on the press and all of that. And even the business world, they were not too happy with him, because he was one who said, look, we want indigenization of the things we do here. And so you guys, in foreign investors, let's check out the table first before we have you in. And that obviously got him a lot of enemies.
He also played a key role in East Asia.
Yeah.
He was a strong ally to Uhuru Kenyatta in developing East Asia.
Yeah.
What do you think that the impact of his absence would be politically for Tanzania and for East Asia?
I'm trusting that because his vice president is stepping into office, and they've worked for a while. They were in the last regime together before they go into this one. I'm trusting that he would be able to take on some of the good things he did, like what he did with East Asia, and be able to also abstain.
East Africa, rather.
East Africa, yes. East Africa, sorry. And she'll be able to run away from the wrongs, because for me, some of the things it did were outrightly wrong as regards the way it dealt with the coronavirus thing. So I imagine that lessons has been learned, and the vice president or the incoming president will be able to deal with that more better than he did.
You just mentioned his vice. Someone said something that she's quite an underrated personality in East Asia. So East Africa. I don't know why I keep saying East Asia. East Africa.
Yeah.
Tanzania has not published any coronavirus figures since May last year.
Yep.
They have refused to purchase the coronavirus vaccines.
Yeah.
Do you see that as some sort of place where she should start from when she takes office, once she's sworn in?
Absolutely. I mean, because it is obvious that one of the shortcomings or the things that cause his failure, as it were, not minding his very, very great achievement in office, was the fact that he didn't deal with the coronavirus very well. Like I said, the rest of Africa, I mean, if you really, really dig down, there are a lot of, reservations, but they are not as frontal as he was. And I believe that learning lessons from what his predecessor did wrongly, he should be able to do things better than he did.
Well, it's good news for while it is start development Tanzania, to have a woman lead is also good news for Africa.
For women.
For women and for Africa as a whole.
Yeah.
African Affairs Analyst Oluwase Adeyemo, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.